101.
Yep, beef, chicken, fish, whatever. Anything that's low acid, potatoes, low acid beans, you want to pressure cook them. Do not water bath low acid items. It'll kill you. Potentially botulism. Anyway, this is just some beef here, some of our beef. And what you do is you just loose pack the jars, put seasoning in the bottom. I use Montreal steak seasoning. Cut up the chunks of beef. You can see here they're just loose, small chunks of beef. You fill the jar, leave about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of head space. Or the best way to do it is to the bottom of this first big ring. Don't put meat beyond that. You don't need any broth or anything in there. It's going to make its own broth. If you put water in these with beef that's uncooked, you're going to explode your lids. Now, if you cook the beef, that's a whole nother talk show, but we're putting raw packed beef in to the pressure canner, and we got to cook it for 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure at our elevation here, which we're about 300 feet above sea level here. If you're, I think, over 3,000 or 4,000 feet, then you got to bump it up to 12 pounds. And if you're above 6,000 feet, you got to do 90 minutes at 15 pounds or something like that. Don't quote me on it. I can tell you at sea level, up to 1,000 feet anyway. 10 pounds for 90 minutes on all items that are non-acid. Tomatoes and that sort of thing, you can water bath them in 45 minutes till they seal. You're fine. They got enough acid in them. A lot of people are afraid of these pressure cookers. There's really no reason to be afraid of them, but they're like guns and automobiles. If you don't know what you're doing, they'll damn sure kill you or maim you. I had a friend when I was a kid, his mother told him to go take the lid off the pressure cooker, and the kid went in and took the lid off. It scarred him for life, maimed him real bad. So here's the thing to remember about pressure cookers. There's a little pressure gauge here. This should always read 0 when you open this. There's a pressure valve here. If this is up, there's pressure in here regardless of what this tells you. If this is down, okay, there should be no pressure in it, but if this is down and there's pressure on that gauge, I'd be really cautious. I'd walk away. I don't know if that's possible, but between the two, 0 pressure and a down
Before you open
gauge
it.
before you open. And when you open these things, always open like this and use this lid as a shield for your face. Open it away from you for any steam that'd come out of there. This will protect you. If you open it the other way, like so, you're going to funnel that steam right in your face. And if there's pressure behind it, trust me, it'll get you. So make sure you lock these on like this. They lock. Then the next step is you just turn your gas on. And then you let the pressure build here. This pressure valve will come up, and then the steam vent for 10 minutes, it should bubble with a good steady stream of steam before you put your weight on the top here. This weight blocks the steam and allows it to build pressure, but it also has, it's weighted, so there's a safety valve in here that'll relieve pressure. When you get up around 15 pounds, this thing will start rocking like that, and you'll hear it. And the harder it rocks, the more pressure it's building. So you never leave a pressure cooker unmonitored. It's not something you just turn on and walk away from. You can blow them up. I like to do my pressure cooking outside. You can cook inside on a flat top, not on a glass top, but on a regular convection stove top. They don't recommend that you cook on top of a flame like I'm doing, but people have been doing that for 125, 150 years, so maybe they don't recommend it today, but I'm going to do it outside, and I'm going to do it on a flame personally. That's just my preferred way of doing it, but it's less mess, and if there is any problem, it's outside, not in the house.
So how long does this cook?
Well, this is going to take probably about 20 minutes to come up to steam. We put warm water in there when we added it.
It'll take it that long before you even put the weight on.
Yeah, about
15,
that.
20 minutes,
Yep.
and then you put the weight on.
Yep, let it build steam, put the weight on. There's one part we missed. I already added the water in here. When you place your jars inside the cooker, you want to add 3 quarts of water to boil, to build pressure with. Somewhere 3 to 4 quarts. Doesn't have to be precise, but somewhere in that 3 to 4 quart range. These are 7 quart. They're called 21, 22 quart canners, but they hold 7 quart jars or 20 pint jars. So even though the jars cost you a little more money, pints are nice because you can load 20 pints in there versus 7 quarts. So it really helps out if you're canning a lot of stuff to do the pints. And there again, you can look in the cooker and see the water down there. And that's what it looks like. And this is just, like I say, beef. You can do it with chicken.
So
fish.
once you put that little weight on there after 15 or 20 minutes,
It'll build up. Once the weight comes on,
yeah.
and she comes to
how
10
long
pounds.
do you cook it then?
Once you put the weight on and you build 10 pounds pressure, which will take about 5 minutes. Once that weight's on, it'll take about 5 minutes to go from 0 to 10 pounds. Then you cook it for 90 minutes at 10 pounds, and you never let that dial go below 10 pounds. That's important. It needs to stay at a constant, at least 10 to 15 pounds pressure. I don't fuss with it. I can a lot of my stuff at 90 minutes at 15 pounds pressure. It's more than it's needed. It's overkill. But all it'll do for meat like beef is make it more seasoned.
So what happens if it goes below 10 pounds?
You got to start all over.
So what you have in there's no good?
Well, potentially you could have bacteria in there, so that's.
And what if it goes over 15?
Don't hurt anything. It's just more tender. It overcooks it a little bit, but it's in the jar and its own juices. It's like leaving a pot roast in the slow cooker for an extra 4 or 5 hours.
But when that thing hits 20, or caution, you need
don't
to
let it
turn
hit
your,
20.
Yeah.
If it hits 20, you better be looking around because this thing's got safety blowouts in it. This right here, see this black deal right here? This is a safety stop, pressure. If that thing builds over 20 pounds of pressure, this black rubber will shoot out of there. And I always keep the rubbers faced away. Don't point them towards you, because anyway, I've never blown one of those, but that's what they're in there for.
But you need to turn your flame down or do something if you're getting hot.
You start on high when you're cooking, and if you're cooking on a flat top inside the house, you turn it on high and warm up the water. And once the water gets warm and steaming, then you turn it down on medium. And then once you build your pressure to 10, 12 pounds, you'll turn her down on medium low on a cooktop.
So you just got to kind of watch it, and you play with it. So if it goes below 10, get it back up real quick. And if it goes higher than 15, kind of keep it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And once you figure it out, it doesn't vary. It stays the same. What I do on this one, I start them right now. I turn it up on high. Takes about 15, 20 minutes, depending on how warm or cold the water is, to get my steam venting. And once my steam vents for 5 or 10 minutes, I put my weights on like this when the steam's blowing out. And then when she builds up to 10 pounds, I start my stopwatch for 90 minutes, an hour and a half. Now, you don't have to go that long on pints, but I still do. You can get away with an hour on pints, but I still run 90 minutes. And I'm telling you, this stuff here, you could keep it in a dark, cool place. If she's canned right, it'd be good for 20, 30, 40 years, literally. As long as she's sealed, and when you open up a jar of meat or anything, or produce, as long as it sucks and you hear that vacuum sucking in air, you're fine. You know you've got a contained environment with no air. Nothing's going to grow and live in there.
And I will tell you guys, this freaked me out, but it's a true story. When we first met, he fed me over here, he fed me some salmon, right?
Yeah, salmon. My grandfather
salmon,
smoked
and
salmon.
After, it was really good, and after he fed it to me, he said, honey, when were you born again? And I told him, and I looked at him like, what did you just do to me? And he said, that meat was older than you were. And he showed me the date on it, and it had been canned before I was born. And I'm to say that was 4 years ago. I'm 47 now, so that meat was real old, and it was real good though. And
smoked salmon. My grandfather left me with 2 cases of smoked salmon, and he informed me to save at least a few jars for my grandkids and to feed it to them and tell them that my grandfather canned this when I was your age, your size. So that salmon was actually canned in 1968 or 69. And what my grandfather always did is whatever he canned, he took the daily newspaper of that day and laid it in the bottom of the box.
Smart.
And then put his jars in, so he never wrote on his lids or anything. If you wanted to know when something was canned to my grandfather's, you'd pull out the box and you'd go to a corner and lift up the jar in the corner, and you could read right there the date on it right at the top. It'd say Statesman Journal or Oregonian, such and such a day and date, and that's the day and date it was canned.
And actually, that is true. There was not a date on the can.
No.
You pulled
It shows
up
the Tet
you
offensive.
pulled up the paper and started reading it, and then you asked me when I was born because
The paper,
you were reading
actually,
the
the article
paper.
in that paper is Vietnam, the Tet offensive. So whenever the Tet offensive was, I think it was 1968 or 9.
So before I was born.
Yeah, so that's kind of a cool way to do it. A lot of people don't take papers anymore, but you know, you could still take a magazine. It wouldn't matter anything. If you had a People magazine, you could rip off the front cover of People and throw it down there. You'd know within a week or two.
I think still it's also
know.
also a good idea to write on top of your jar. That way,
Yeah, I do.
That way you know for sure, because papers could get wet, they could get ripped, they could anything, and then you don't. Sometimes the meat, when it sits in a long time, you can't tell exactly what it is too.
Yeah, and the key is it's not going to hurt you. It'll lose some nutrition when
Long
you
as it
can
pops.
it anyway. As long as it sucks when you open it up. If you do not hear a vacuum, throw it away. It'll kill you, potentially. Could make you very sick or kill you with botulism. So, and you keep them in a cool, dark place with no moisture. Make sure your lids aren't rusted or anything. I like to write on my lids the what's in them, and if it's seasoned or not. I just write the year. I don't put the day and the date. I write the year. So like on these, I'll put spicy beef 2020. And I'll know that that's seasoned beef that was canned in 2020. So that's how I do it anyway.
All right, well that's canning meat or fish 101.
Yeah, fish too, by the way. Don't do fish in larger than pints. I wouldn't put fish in quarts. You can do beef and chicken in quarts, but fish, I would put them in pints or half pints. They'll can a lot better, and besides, you shouldn't be eating no quart of salmon, man. That's a meal for a grizzly bear.
Yum. I mean, we could look at us. We could eat it between the two of us. I mean,
but you don't need it. So half pints are real nice. I like to do salmon in pints and half pints. So.
All right. Well, we made this video really more for me, so that because I've done this with him, but I've never done it myself. So I was making this video so that I can do it, or if I ever need to do it, you know, I want to know how to do it.
In case the uprising comes and
No, just so I can help, or someday he won't be around to share his knowledge, but whatever, I just need to know how to do it. So anyways, we'll share it with you guys so you know how to can.
Did you see that car went by?
No,
That
so
was a
you know.
1967 fastback, about the vintage of that smoked salmon.
Yeah. So you'll know how to can meat. You can also look it up, I'm sure. But anyways, we like to make little how-to videos, and we've thrown videos on here before about canning corn and tomato sauce and all sorts of stuff. So never have thrown anything on here about canning meat though. So
Ball canning book. Just get a hold of a Ball, B-A-L-L, Ball or Kerr.
probably online too.
K-E-R-R canning book. Good to have. It'll tell you everything you need to know about canning fruits and vegetables and meats. So a real valuable resource to have just on hand, a Ball canning book. And there's a few little items. One of these little deals, picking up your hot jars, indispensable. Really nice. Just grab them and lift them up and place them. And then the only other thing I tell you is when you pull these out, let them cool down, pressure's off before you open the lid. And then if they're still warm, like I'm going to keep rocking and rolling when I start canning stuff. I like to keep my water hot and warm. Take your jars inside. Don't leave them out in the cool breeze. I've had jars explode before. And do not use mayonnaise jars. My old man, not my grandpa, but my dad, he was Mr. Chintzy sometimes. He liked to save mayonnaise jars. They're fine for one canning, one time. But if you repeatedly use jars like Ball or Kerr mason jars, they're fine, as long as they don't have any cracks or nicks in them. But I'm telling you what, mayonnaise jars, they don't take a pressure cooker but one time. So bottoms will come out
Use
of them.
jars that are made for canning.
Yeah, use
period.
canning jars.
Yeah.
And use good lids. My goodness, for the amount of time it takes to prep this stuff and what the contents cost, whether it's meat or vegetables or fruit, it's not worth messing it up over chintzy lids and chintzy jars, in my opinion. So use quality product and you'll end up with a good quality finished product that's good for a long time.
What do you always say at the end of your videos?
Peace out.
No, that's my saying.
I don't know, what do I always say?
Anytime you make a canning video, I've never had you make one that you haven't said happy canning.
Oh, happy canning. Well, yeah, that's a given. I thought you were talking about a closing
No,
line.
that
or
is your closing line. Happy canning. That's all you ever say.
something. Okay. Well,
All right.
happy canning.
Yeah.